Unmute, all right. Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Staff or trustee addition or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, staff has no additions or deletions to the agenda.
So take a motion to adopt the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, let me make sure all the public comments, let me make sure I have them all. Is this okay, that's just a letter. So I've got 1, 2. So I have Mr. Bailey and Miss Lindley. Is there anybody else that I missed? Okay. And I'm gonna start them with Mr. Bailey.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board. I'm Stephen Bailey, and I'm the Director of CARC, and I'm here simply to tell y'all thank you for the use of the physical therapy building that y'all were gracious and kind enough to allow CARC to use while we were doing a renovation of our adult day training building at our main office. We have completed the interior renovations of that building and moved our individuals that we serve back home, as they call it, and we appreciate the use of the building. And I just want to come and tell y'all thank you again for the use of it. Your staff were fabulous throughout the whole process. Dwayne, we can't say enough of good things about him. Dale, all the office staff, we appreciate it. And thank you guys again for allowing CARC to use that building. We appreciate it. That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. It's a pleasure to help out. All right. Miss Lindley,
I have no comments at this time.
you wanna wait until we
I would like to.
cover the item?
Yes.
All right. On the public comments, need to approve the consent agenda.
Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
The motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, I didn't.
Did not. Okay,
I abstain.
you abstain.
Yes.
Okay. We do.
What is your reason?
Because I don't agree with some of it.
Well, without a valid statutory conflict of interest, which means you'd have a pecuniary individual gain, you're not allowed to
I don't
abstain.
have any money involved in any of this.
I know, but the statute requires you to vote unless you have the recognized
I'm voting,
conflict
I'm
of interest.
abstaining. Okay, no. How's that? That take care of it?
So does the motion pass still with the three members of the, okay. Sorry, it's very new having a third up here.
Having someone that can't take it away.
And that was on the consent agenda?
So can I move on?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a comment. I'm having a great deal of difficulty hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you're out of this here. The eardrum busted on this one. So I may ask for things to be repeated if that's okay.
No problem, no problem.
Let's change.
So we can move on to new business then. correct?
Yep.
Okay. So the first item on the list, agenda here is public hearing. Hearing to declare the parcel of land known as the Lakeshore Hospital Authority as surplus property and to authorize disposal of said surplus property in a manner. In a manner approved by the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees.
Open it up for public comment.
Okay. So is there any public comments to this? Bear with me on
Does
this.
it have to be a motion and a vote? Isn't that what you said last time?
This is a public hearing.
Yeah. this is-
Yeah, we're gonna have the discussions prior to any motions,
I got it.
but this is the public hearing part of it, so it's open to the floor.
Thank you.
So if we have no public comments, can I move on?
Close the public
Or
hearing.
close the public hearing for this item? Okay, do we want to open all of these up individually?
Yeah.
Okay. So to close that, so do we have any comments from the members of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may, would you mind introducing our new member of the board?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Can we take a break to do that? I didn't have some spot right here.
Sure.
Mr. Bullock, would you please introduce yourself to the members?
Jerry Bullard, glad I will be on the board and look forward to serving.
Welcome, Mr. Bowley.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Bullard.
I'd like to make a motion to declare the parcels of land known as the former Lakeshore Hospital as surplus property and to authorize the disposal of said surplus property in a manner approved by the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees.
And I'll second that motion.
All right. The motion in a second.
Yes,
Are there any comments?
Mr. Chair, the only comment I'd like to have is that when we do decide to vote, that we start taking roll call vote on all of our motions, please, sir.
Okay. We can do that. Ms. Chancey, I saw you nod that you had comment.
Oh, yeah. I have a problem declaring it surplus property, which means that it can be sold, which follows logic. We are appointed as trustees of all of this property. With the idea of trustees, there is a moral obligation that rests on all our shoulders. The moral obligation, as I see it, this property was donated by people for the benefit of Columbia County, not any individual person or entity. Therefore, I vote against this.
Chair, can I?
Yes, please.
And Dale and Todd, maybe this is directed to you all. In order for us to sell the property, give the property away, tear the building down, or do anything, we have to declare it surplus. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's not, this isn't necessarily for us to sell it, it's for us to move forward with disposing of the property in one way or another.
Correct. Step one.
I've said it numerous times, and I'll continue to say that, you know, we keep kicking the can down the road and we're spending $45,000 a month to maintain the building. And we've got to come to some sort of resolution on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may, I would somewhat echo Mr. Beal's comments. I think I've said it before. And I've been on the board now for right at 2 years and walked in here and we had slightly over 21 million. And we now have 19 million. And we've been spending $25,000 to $30,000 a month of taxpayers' money for nothing. And we have exhausted all avenues as to get another hospital in there. I would have given my right arm to have one. And another 24/7 emergency room, which this county so badly needs, not just this county, surrounding counties need. But we have exhausted all avenues and there's not going to be another hospital there. It's just like when I go home tonight, I lost my cat of 13 years and he's not going to be there. There ain't going to be another hospital. And I'm tired of going anywheres and people saying, when are you going to shut that place down over there? When are you going to stop the $25,000 to $30,000 a month?
May I respond?
Yes.
I agree with the fact of the hospital. I do not agree that we as board should tear the hospital down and then give it away to a private entity. Okay? If we were giving it to the city, to the county, we are still doing what the donors, not exactly, but within bounds of what the donors requested. Okay? People don't donate land to a county entity and expect the county to turn around and sell it or give it away to a private entity. That is my moral position on it. And I have a problem going anywhere else. Remember that you are entrusted as trustees, as am I. Part of being a trustee is that you uphold the moral standards. I think we can look in the newspaper and see a lot of people that haven't, most recently. I'm not joining that club.
Any further comments from the members? Okay. There's a motion and a second to declare the hospital authority surplus. Been asked to do a roll call vote, so I will
No,
give you this chance. Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Bullard,
Yes.
Yes.
motion passes, declared as surplus. Okay, this time I'd like to open up a public hearing to declare block 111 within the city of Lake City as surplus property, to authorize disposal of said surplus property in a manner approved by the Lake Shore Hospital Board of Trustees. I'll open that to the public.
My comment is why not declare the vacant lots to the east? Why weren't they put on this list? They're useless. And Jack Berry bought them with authority money and they're just pieces of swamp. So we need to, next board meeting, declare those surplus and get rid of them.
Come on the far side of the
Yes,
lake.
on
Yeah.
Far side, there were like 3 lots. I think you bought 3. Sonia was there, no, 2, there were 3, and he bought two of the 3. And they're worthless. We should give them the city or make them a retention pond or something.
These two, Barbara, right?
Yeah,
See those real quick, Dale, just make sure I'm on the same page.
I apologize for the scale, but the 2 lots that Miss Lemley's referring to would be these 2 small parcels here. And honestly, they should have been included, so we will add those to the next agenda.
Okay.
Those are properties east of the Bordoya building.
Parking
And
lot.
further than that, if you go over to the far eastern side of what we consider to be the Lake Shore property,
Yes, sir.
they would be to that side. Or they would
All right,
have a
thank you.
common property line.
Thank you.
Mr. Lacker,
Well,
Looker?
yeah.
Did I really just say that? Looker. I'm sorry, Stu.
It's not a problem. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to be here tonight. I'm not so concerned about these properties as I am about the procedure of this meeting. Made a frame gentleman leave my call on that. Stop. When trustees, nice to meet you, Mr. Bullard.
You too, sir.
address the board, is to address everybody. I think offensive this last time and the time before at these meetings with Mr. Kennedy. Is not interrogating anybody now. His comments are to address the board, not to try to stand down trustee Chancey or anybody else on the board. His comments are, probably he should be looking at you when he speaks, not leaning back in his chair and giving Ms. Chancellor the evil eye.
Okay.
So I would respectfully ask that you take note of that. And then Mr. Kennedy take note of it. That's not what we're here for. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Fine. Any additional comments about block 111? Okay. We can close the public hearing on this section and let's open it up to board comments.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to declare block 111 in the city of Lake City as surplus property and to authorize disposal of said surplus property in a manner approved by the Lakeshore Hospital Board of Trustees.
Second.
A motion and a second to declare block 111. Does anyone have any additional comments on board? Property? Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor. We'll do this one with a roll call as well.
No.
Ms. Chancey? No.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Bullard?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Okay. We go to the next section here, public hearing to declare all tangible personal property, including all furniture, fixtures, and equipment located in the building formerly known as the Lakeshore Hospital Authority as surplus property and authorize disposal in a manner approved by the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees. Any public comments?
Once you declare it surplus, what are the plans after it's declared surplus? Is there any?
That's what they get figured out.
I think that's what we're gonna figure out. Once it is declared surplus, if I'm not mistaken, Deb, we can do an auction or we can offer it to the county if they have any use for it. I
Okay,
think that's
so
up for our comments right now.
that will come up there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Liker, Lilker. Go, see, I caught that.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Equipment and everything else that's in the hospital, the beds, the racks for the IVs, the vests, the radiation, and all the other stuff. As far as I know, there's never been an inventory done which values what's there. That hospital has been empty now, vacant for, was it 3 years? About. Started off with a handwritten inventory on spreadsheets, and I, at that time, told the authority manager, I don't think he knew how to do a inventory, which he didn't agree with. But, you know, it makes a horse race. But there's companies that do inventories. Sure, Mr. Powell's aware of that. Some of you folks that are in business. And up to this point, an inventory has never been done with barcodes to value the inventory in the hospital. The inventory is depreciated for the last 3 years. It was pretty clear to the authority manager, to the chairman of the board at that time, Mr. Beal, and everybody else except Mr. Bullard, unless he was paying attention to what was going on here. I doubt that. If he was, he would know that that was never valued. And 6 months after it was pretty clear, well, it was eminently clear, that that hospital was not going to become a hospital, that inventory could have been liquidated at that time. And that's the responsibility of the hospital authority, the hospital authority manager, and the former chairman for not having that thing valued. And the board then decided what to do with that inventory. Hospital beds are very expensive. Those things have been depreciated over 3 years. You almost got out of it by donating this stuff to the governor. But apparently that didn't come through. So I think the public needs to hold you account. They're not doing an inventory and valuing that inventory now that it's depreciated after 3 years. And all of you have done this authority, the public, a disservice by not liquidating that inventory. I'll look forward to seeing what you're gonna do now. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Blackman? Bill? Sorry, I'm working on it, man. Any other additional comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Excuse me.
I'm just the public part.
Oh,
I'm closing the public hearing. Any board member comments, Ms. Chanson?
yes, I
ma'am.
did go in the hospital and I did look at the equipment.
Yes,
And what was left after Shan's left could only be used as parts for other equipment.
Mhm.
All the good beds, all the good X-ray stuff, all the good lab stuff was gone.
I
I
do
was
recall.
there and took pictures. There was a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff there. But the good stuff, the updated stuff was gone. All the ICU beds and stuff like that. The scanners in X-ray. Even the X-ray equipment was pulled off the wall, laying on the floor.
You know, I saw that. The
Yeah.
Computers were there, the screens were there, all that. could have been
And
taken.
that was when Shan's left.
Mhm.
Cause I went in there about 2 weeks after they cleared. And it wouldn't have been worth any more then than it is right now. Okay, that I will say. We were hoping for prices to come up, but they didn't.
For what it's worth, I do recall Ace Medical when they were coming through giving us their pitch, and that was the first thing they said was all the lab equipment that was left was trash.
Right,
So while I believe there might have been value there, I don't think there was value to,
I think when Shan's left, there wasn't any value to
pretty
it.
minimal, yeah.
You don't have an inventory tonight that the board could look at when you decide what to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, we're out of public comments. We're not.
That's true, that's true. But anyway, I just was gonna, I was piggybacking on her comment. Are there any more board comments about the personal property, furniture, fixtures, et cetera?
I'd like to ask Mr. Williams what his idea would be for us to dispose of this property.
Well, first of all, identify what the end use of the property may be, because the end user may very well wish to keep at least some, if not all, of that inventory. And then what is left, I would dispose of in the most efficient manner, whether that be an auction, sealed bid, or what have you. I will say that there is not a week goes by that we don't get a request for at least some of that inventory from some party. Now, a lot of those items, they're specialty items. So for example, you take some of the old OBGYN stuff, some of the local OBGYN doctors have requested some of that. So we've tried to maintain and keep an inventory of the people requesting where they can be notified when that time comes for that disposal. But I would think, just as it has been from day one, that the end user, whoever that may be, gets to discuss with you what inventory they would like to keep in the building as part of that. Obviously, if the building gets raised, if it gets demolished, then all the inventory would be sold. But until that is known, it's very difficult to say exactly.
I agree. I think we have to determine what's going to be the fate of the property before we can move the personal property.
In that case, I'd like to make a motion to declare all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment located in the building formerly known as the Lakeshore Hospital as surplus property, and to determine the method of disposal at a future date.
I'll second.
The motion and a second on the board to, declare tangible property and deal with it at a later future date. I'm gonna do that with a, roll call vote.
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Just vote.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous and the motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda, discussing impossible action. Transfer of the former Lakeshore Hospital building, including the adjacent parking lot, to Meridian Behavioral Health Care, consistent with the terms and conditions of the existing agreement for purchase and sale of real property, and subject to identification of additional parcels, real property to be transferred to Meridian and personal property to be transferred to Meridian.
Any public comment on this agreement having from the?
Yeah, that's probably a pertinent point. Ms. Lemley, do you have any comment for this? I know you had one in.
Finally down to the line, what to do with the building. You know, there's pros and cons. You know, I've heard a couple positive things about Meridian. I've heard a couple of negative things. And if you guys are going to transfer the building to Meridian, maybe something can be done as far as community members who have concerns that Meridian's not good, that maybe they should have some type of open discussion and forum to resolve some of the unsolved issues with Meridian and their client base. Thank you.
I will come with this one.
Still, I'm gonna entertain this, just be nice, be nice.
I'm always nice.
Okay.
Whoa, I'm always nice. You don't agree with what I have to say, then I apologize for that, to you. I can't help that. As far as giving the hospital, transferring the former Lakeshore Authority building, Meridian, I'm 100% opposed. Let me restate that. I'm 200% opposed. Let me tell you again, I'm 300% opposed. I went to Meridian and did the story, and nobody else did it. On the place is immaculate. I know they didn't do that for me. And I told Mr. Savoy, whom all of a sudden fell off the face of the earth, that I had never heard anything good about Meridian by anybody, period. You go to Meridian's website, the only people that say good thing about Meridian is Meridian, is Don Savoy. And the top brass. You look at the salaries at Meridian, this is a not-for-profit. The number 2 person makes over $600,000 a year. That certainly would help with the renovations of the hospital authority. Mrs. Roy makes $250,000. He runs a $50 million business. I don't think anybody would say that he's overpaid, including him. You've heard people come here and speak about what they thought the care was at Meridian, and I'd be curious to know what Mr. Bullard has researched. I heard Mr. Kennedy tell me at the end of a meeting, you need to speak to some doctors. And I wrote this is what he said, but he wouldn't tell me the name of the doctors. I heard Miss Chansey at this meeting say she's never heard, and that finally loosened, shook the tree a little bit, but she finally spoke up after those people were here and spoke to this board and said she's never heard anything good about Meridian. The fact of the matter is, I don't know anybody that has anything good to say about the services of Meridian. And I went on there, I looked at that letter that was in the agenda packet yesterday night. We now have this new firm, what is it, Progress or something? Something that they're now tied up with that I didn't realize before, and I've never seen that before on any piece of literature. I was asked by Meridian to speak to their PR people because Meridian knows they've got a problem with their reputation. It's pretty clear why. They keep the buildings clean, you get off the floors. But the main purpose of Meridian is to help people that are having a mental crisis. And I explained that, what that's like before, so I'm not gonna go there again. And I ask you to consider this. Is that if you give this hospital to Meridian, and you may not know, I could ask for 30 more seconds, please, Mr. Chairman. Is that Meridian now has Chuck Brannon going to the legislature to ask for $3.5 million now.
Chair, did you ask the speaker to address the board?
I was just moving my head, Mr. Beal. $3.5 million now of state money to renovate a hospital. If you read the application, it says the authority has given the hospital to Meridian. The authority hasn't given the hospital to Meridian. I asked Ms. Chancey that the other day. Did you remember? I went through all the minutes the other day. I read the information that's on the website. That says that you've given the hospital to Meridian. This board has never given the hospital to Meridian. That is an outright lie. So for all those reasons, and I really want to hear what Mr. Bullethead says, because he must have woke up and had a dream that his whole life he went to be in the hospital authority, is that
Tom's.
I'd like to know what he has to say about this. Thank you very much for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
First. So while it's not necessarily open to, I'll, for a chance, Brandon, don't get mad at me. Are there any other comments? You can address. See what we'll speak. Okay. We've heard the comments, wishes of the board or comments from the board.
I think before we move on this, we need to find out who lied. If Mr. Brannon thought that we had given the hospital to Meridian, I do not want to believe that he knew that we hadn't. But somebody lied. Who did?
Mr. Chairman, if I may clear up some matters. I don't think anybody lied. The way the legislature works is that the House has to file their bills by a certain date,
Yes,
okay? So does the Senate. But the House bills have to be filed much sooner than the Senate. Meaning like September or October, with the session just starting in January. So I don't think there was any intent on a lie. They have to get their bills in, so they couldn't have got it in under the assumption that basically they got the bill in under the assumption that if the hospital was given to Meridian, then hopefully they could receive some funding. Meridian could receive some funding, whether that was done, and it's none of my business. I don't think it's any of our business, whether it was done by Meridian themselves or through their lobbying association that they have. That's the way the legislature works. And that's, I'm sure, the reason. I haven't talked to Mr. Brannon, but I'm sure that that's the way the process works in the legislature. Dale, Mr. Williams, would you disagree with that? Or?
No, I wouldn't disagree. In fact, I spoke yesterday to Representative Brannon. And basically he reiterated, or he stated what you just reiterated.
Okay.
He also said he did not know, he did not, he was not under the impression or the knowledge that we had transferred the
Right.
property.
Right.
But as you stated, he was filing a bill for funding in hopes that they would do the same in the Senate at the
Right.
appropriate time. And obviously, if it doesn't happen that way,
Then they got next year,
they got no bill.
or next year they could file the bills again.
But
That's
I
it.
did call and speak with him directly yesterday.
Thank you.
So,
And it's excuse me, Mr.
I'm
No
sorry.
fault against the Lake City Reporter who was here. I didn't read the article, but if you're saying that they said it was approved, then it's just a misquote. That's all it is. And I don't think is it got quotes around it? Says the Lakeshore Hospital Authority has approved deeding the hospital to Meridian Behavioral Health, comma. I don't see any quotes around that as it was quoted by either Mr. Brandon or Mr.
No, I'm
Schultz,
not saying it was
or
quoted
me or
by it.
you or whoever.
Somebody lied.
Well, I don't think, I wouldn't call it a lie.
Chair,
Hang on one second.
I would also
Bill.
just like to interject in the conversation that this board, I believe it was in July or August, voted in favor of moving forward with giving the building to Meridian. So this board did already vote to give it to them pending finishing up and final approval of the negotiations for the agreement. And I mean,
That was my
there
understanding.
were some scoffs in the audience, but I believe
That was
we could
my
go back and find the minutes where that was the motion, the second and the vote.
Yeah, I don't think it truly was my understanding that we had already moved it.
And I have another question about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Why does it say sale and purchase?
Just the name that we put on the document.
There's no sale and there's no purchase, the way you guys are handling it.
Mr. Kenneth, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that how we are transferring it?
We're selling it to them?
For the sum of $0.
Isn't that, yeah, but isn't the agreement stated it says for sale of, I can't remember what it was, the dollar amount, that's one for the license, one or. I thought I read it somewhere, is why I'm asking this. See, I thought it wasn't
Okay.
sale, transfer.
Okay, but when we did talk about the building, we were talking about leasing the land to them. Long-term lease for a very small amount. I would still go along with that 100%. I am adamantly opposed to giving them the land that was entrusted to us.
Sure, Kenny, did we hear back from Meridian on I believe it was the perpetual reverter clause?
Yeah.
That's as stated in their letter. That at least at the date of the letter, they were requesting that the reverter as to our property not exceed 30 years. And that they receive, I think it's a typo, they said block 101, it should be block 111. Free and clear of the Mason reverter clause.
How much is that gonna cost,
What's that?
the land that the Masons have?
We haven't reached any,
And we're gonna pay that?
well, that hasn't been brought before the trustees yet.
Uh-huh.
So after our last meeting, whenever we said there was a perpetual reverter clause, Meridian said, no, they still want to be capped at 30 years.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, could I?
Yes, sir.
Could I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
The, often, when a reverter clause becomes effective, it would be because the person in the property is no longer usable, is no longer valuable to the person that would be willing to revert property. It would easily be to look at that clause as a liability. And the 30 years would limit your liability. Also, I will, in any instance, if this is passed and enacted at however many years, I will recommend that because your future funding is limited, that you escrow sufficient fund to deal with if you get the property back, because it'll be a liability that you'll have to spend money to deal with. And so, in my opinion, the shorter the reverter clause, the better.
I'd like to make a motion that we transfer the former Lakeshore Hospital building, including the adjacent parking lot, which would be block 111, to Meridian Behavior Healthcare, consistent with the terms and conditions of the existing agreement for purchase and sale of real property and subject to identification of additional real parcels of real property to be transferred, contingent upon a 30-year reverter clause and resolution of block 111. Is that the only parcel that we have on the title search that block 111 has a reverter clause on?
On the title search, you are correct. The Masons are under the impression that a subsequent deed that deeded a little bit of the front end of the hospital and a couple of areas around there should be subject to a reverter clause. They acknowledge that the deed does not contain a reverter clause. They believe that was a error and omission by somebody, whoever, I'm assuming the drafter of the deed. They never put any blame on that, but they are still of that position. We made our position clear that
Legally, it's just on that.
both us, Meridian's attorney, and the title company have come to the opinion that only block 111 has a reverter deed of public record,
So that's,
or reverter clause.
my motion is contingent upon Meridian agreeing to a 30-year reverter and us coming to some sort of resolution with block 111 with the Masons.
May I ask the board attorney just a brief question,
Yes.
please?
Please.
Where are we on the completion with the Masons?
We've had 2 meetings with them and no resolution as of this point.
Did we offer to,
We have not
Transfer the
offered any
the
funds.
property.
I think Meridian's position is they were not gonna contribute any funds towards the termination of the reverter clause.
so did we offer to give them the property back?
We have not officially offered that because wouldn't have that authority.
Last meeting,
Yeah, now, we did at the last meeting ask them, would they be willing to trade their interest in any properties
Right,
here
okay,
for
right.
other properties? They did not say no, but they did not say yes. And the way I read the room is that's not what they would like.
Which they can't decide until they have another meeting.
Right, and they do have a process. As Miss Laurie said, they must go through whatever they decide is up for a vote of the membership, and they have a prescribed way they have to take that vote. So they do have some steps they must go through. So as it relates to Meridian, and Todd, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think what remains in order for there to be a complete agreement in front of you, for you to give a final yes or no over, it is a resolution to the reverter held by the Masons. The language to be included that deals with the cap of 30 years on the reverter back to the authority. The actual parcels that will be included as part of this agreement and the inventory that is to be transferred with it. Those are the outstanding things. I think most of the language of the agreement you've been looking at, I don't think it's changed much at all recently. And I think most of these things I just mentioned, the attorneys are telling me will be affixed as attachments to the agreement. They're referenced by attachment in the agreement. When those are complete, you have a complete agreement by which you can look at all the blanks filled in, all of the attachments complete.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Further discussion, I would also like to reiterate that at the last meeting, there was a motion and it passed for us to offer to give that parking lot back to the Masons.
Yeah, I don't think they want that. I think they want to check. If I had to guess.
But we need to give it, I mean,
Give it- I'm with you.
there's a
Give
reverter
it
clause,
back.
give it back to them. But I
Yeah.
also firmly believe that Meridian is considered a hospital. I think, I'm not an attorney or legal expert, but I also think that
Percent.
in that reverter clause, it says as long as it's being used as a hospital. So I think that we really could we have the reverter clause on the hospital building. I think it's being used as a hospital. It's a mental health hospital. So I think that parking lot would go with it and still be within its reverter clause of being used as a hospital.
Spot point.
But I think if the Masons want that parking lot back, we should give it back to them.
I don't think we should vote on this until there's a resolution or something. You have a meeting scheduled for the 22nd.
That meeting was canceled, wasn't
Which
it?
meeting?
22nd of January was canceled.
Yes, sir, Mr. Kennedy.
The only other question that I have for Mr. Kennan, and I know this is a difficult question to answer, but do you anticipate this possibly being a legal battle down the road?
I mean, it could if we transferred the property to Meridian,
Right,
block
Yeah.
111, when I say
Right.
property. Then it would be up to the Masons then to take whatever action they deemed appropriate to have a court declare the intent
right.
back in 1938. What was the intent back then and,
Yes, sir.
and how does that hold true with today's facts and circumstances? But yes, that could be,
And then at that point, they would get the parking lot back.
Yeah,
that's the way to avoid a legal battle. If you needed it back, then there's no issue.
And then, of course, going further on this motion, if it's approved tonight, then from my reading, far from being an attorney, the contract, it's a minimum of 90 days from the time this board makes a decision with Meridian before they would close on the property. Am I correct?
Right, we'd have to have, as Mr. Williams indicated, we have to have the addendums completed with the other parcels and then the inventory on the personal property.
And that's 90 days that this board would have to continue to maintain that building over there at $25,000 to $30,000 a month.
Mhm.
Unless we decided to look at scaling down on those expenses.
Correct.
And we don't know what the answer from your discussions with Meridian's attorneys on. Because in the letter, it was clear they wanted that resolved, that reverter with the Masons, so we don't know what their answer is gonna be.
If that issue does not get resolved.
Yes.
Or if it gets resolved with a deed back to the Masons, we don't know
Yes,
what their position would be. Is that consistent, Mr. Williams, with?
My understanding.
but you don't feel like, Mr. Kennan, that we're getting the cart ahead of the horse?
Well, at probably the next board meeting would be an appropriate time. If we haven't worked something out with the Masons, then this board can address that issue, whether it be a payment, offer it to Meridian as is, or deed it back. And then Meridian have to make a decision based on whatever option the trustees chose.
Until we get some more information from the Masonic Lodge, I don't think we need to move forward with it.
I think we can.
That's my opinion. We don't have enough information to move forward with that.
You have a motion and a second on the floor?
There is a motion and a second on the
I
floor.
want to comment on this.
We've already had public comments
No,
on this.
not on this, not to a motion in a second.
We've had our public
We've had
comment
all
on this
public
agenda
comments
item.
on this. Thank you.
We have, you
Yeah.
just changed the reverter. You just changed the reverter. That's not the same as what was before.
That,
You just changed it.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So what did the reverter say? The old reverter said add forever. So now with this has changed, now you don't think so?
Last meeting, we voted on a 30-year reverter.
I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
So we need to take a roll call vote.
That's correct.
Unless Mr. Beal pulls his motion. If I'm not mistaken.
If I had a question on a personal question, or not a personal question, but a question for myself, to be honest with you, can you transfer one without the other? Can you transfer the building without the one, block 111?
You can offer the building to Meridian without block 111, and the decision at that point would be theirs.
Okay.
Now, I'll admit, I mean, I think my motion is probably a little premature, but I'm trying to once again. Sorry, I was interrupted by another scoff from the audience. Once again, Mr. Chairman, would you please?
Mr. Helker,
I have
please,
something in my throat, excuse me. You know,
could you keep it to a minimum?
I'm trying to keep it to a minimum. I have this thing in my
I
throat.
appreciate that.
Thank you,
Mr. Beal.
I understand that my motion is a little premature, but what I'm trying to do is once again reiterate to the public who are entrusted with managing this property and this money, millions of dollars, that our intent is to soon stop paying tens of thousands of dollars a month to maintain a building that we no longer have use for. So Mr. Kennedy is in agreement with withdrawing his second. I'll withdraw my motion until the next meeting. But I fully expect staff to do whatever's necessary to have all of the answers. Otherwise, my motion will probably be a little different to move forward with doing something different with this building, because I cannot continue spending this much taxpayer dollars on the building. So
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought you were,
I'm good.
I'm sorry, Mr. Beal.
Oh, okay, I just, for point of clarification, for me and Todd. So back to the Masons. Our authority there is to offer a swap of property. And that is really the only form of compensation that we're authorized to offer. Or are we authorized to offer a payment for the rights to that reverter of any kind? And then obviously, if neither one of those are acceptable, we report that. What I just heard is y'all would then offer the property to Meridian, excluding 111. And 111 would revert back to the Masons. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so.
Okay. So if that is what I'm understanding, what is our level of authority in dealing with the Masons in order to clarify once and for all the reverters?
I think the first option is for them to take it back. If they want it, if they want that property, I think we should offer to give it back to them.
Okay.
That was the motion at the last meeting. I think that should be option number one. And then we see how interested they are in the actual property. Do they want property or do they want a sum of money for the property.
Well,
That's what we really need to know,
Yes.
but I think
agree.
we give it back to them.
But
Say,
I
here
think
you
we
go.
could,
Here's the
we could
money.
take it one step further. Can we offer? I bet we don't know what the sum of, we don't know the sum because we don't know the value. I mean. And I can tell you that I don't really, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to, I'm jumping back and forth to chairman and board member. But part of me just wants to say, how much does it cost to keep this thing open? Can we do that for 60 days worth and say that's a number we're willing to part with?
Yeah. Well,
And that's not zero. but
I'm
it's
only
not-
speaking for myself now, but what I've got out of those meetings with the Masons is they do not want this property back. They want to be compensated for their interest in the property. They're not willing to just say, hey, it's been a good ride. We're willing to sign over any interest we may have in this and walk away. They're not willing to do that. They want to be compensated. Now, there are different ways to compensate. Obviously, trading property is one, and then just payment is the other, but I'd never believed that payment was on the table, at least when, from our standpoint of negotiation. So I did mention, would you be willing to accept a trade? And they didn't say no. They didn't come out and say absolutely not. They basically said that they want to be compensated. So they're wanting an offer is what I got.
Or maybe a combination of a lot.
But if we're not authorized to make an offer, then we need to simply know that. We can say we can't do that.
If they're wanting compensation, then compensation in the form of another lot that they would have to pay insurance on and maintenance on, I doubt is anything they would be interested in. But I also hate saying in a public meeting, yeah, let's offer them this much money.
And we
Let's,
don't know
let's,
what the value
let's
is.
start at this much, but let's go up to this much. Well, guess what? It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
And they know what our top dollar is.
You know what my top dollar is? I'm saying a month of operating expenses because that's what it's gonna cost to find out.
Gentlemen, I have a problem giving away property
Uh-huh.
and us putting money out for it. That's a little bit ridiculous. You all are talking about money that's being spent. Think about it. Would you give your house away and then pay the people that you gave it to?
If my house was costing me $30,000 a month, I might consider it.
I doubt it.
The devil's advocate there.
Well, but the Masons are wanting compensation.
Yeah.
So again, we could probably take them to court and force them to take the property back, which
That'd be good.
let's do that. If they won't,
Including the piece that is part of the hospital?
but according to the title search, it's not.
Right.
It's
Just
just,
that, the Masons do not have a deed that has a reverter clause within it. Other than for block 111. That's the Mason, as I indicated earlier, the Masons are of a different opinion. But-
They believe that the intent was there at the time.
and I'm not taking away from this specific instance, but I also believe I'm the lucky lotto winner that never claimed a $100 million ticket in Florida a couple months ago. I mean, just because, but they don't have anything showing that there's a reverter. So I don't think it's fair for us to pay even more.
Do we want to pay for court costs?
No, that's why I want to just give them the parking lot back, but they've also said they're not interested in the property. They want compensation. So,
So we're supposed to compensate them so that they have a gift?
okay, what happens whenever we tear the hospital down? Then the Masons will let us keep the property? Is it only because Meridian's getting it that the Masons are wanting compensation? Or is it because it's not a
Because
hospital?
it's their property. That's how they feel.
So one way or another, we're gonna have to pay something or give them the property back, right?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
So that's my only thing is, regardless of whether Meridian gets it or not, they're wanting compensation for this lot. because it's not a traditional hospital anymore. I'm with you. I would rather not pay anything. So I'm of the impression and my preference would be to give them the lot back. And then if they want to sell it, they can sell it. If they want to keep it a parking lot, they can keep it a parking lot. They can have a festival down there. I mean, but I don't think that we should pay for it. It was something that was gifted. Yes, it was for a certain use. That use is gone now. It's not going to be here. So if they want the property back, let's give it back to them.
But they haven't told us what they. They haven't given us a number, they haven't told us anything, well, you know.
They
Hey,
can go back to them and ask them for a letter of intent, if they would be willing to provide that, then. we'd have
Need to know,
something.
need to know what
Yeah,
their intent is.
In both meetings, Mr. Bullard, they have requested that we make an offer.
I'd make a motion that we offer $25,000.
Well, are we done with? Did you withdraw your?
I did not withdraw my second, and, I would like to have the motion
Sorry.
read back, please.
Apologies.
I don't think I can read that back from memory.
To transfer former Lakeshore Hospital building, including the adjacent parking lot of Meridian Behavioral Health Care, consistent with the terms and conditions of the existing agreement for purchase and sale of real property. And subject to
That's right.
Meridian agreeing to a 30-year reverter clause, like we stated last month, and resolution of block 111 with the Masons.
So that is the 30-year reverter. But we still do not have satisfaction from the Masons.
And we don't, I mean, we're going back to Meridian and saying, no, we're sticking with the 30-year reverter.
Yes, I'll continue to second that motion.
But the motion.
He's asked, would you withdraw your second?
Oh, you're making a new motion. I'm sorry.
I-
I thought it was just, you were just reading the motion that
There
I
was-
did say.
There was, you did, that is.
He was
but-
getting ready to make a second motion for an offer an offer to the Masons for the lot. But
I
we
got
can't
you.
put that motion on the board until you
clarification,
withdraw
Mr.
yours,
Kennedy.
or we can.
I got you.
Board comments made me consider withdrawing my motion.
Okay, and I'll withdraw the second, but I will second your new motion.
I'll withdraw my original motion.
Yes.
And then, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may,
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion that we offer the Masons $25,000 for the parking lot.
I'll second that.
Okay.
My my only thoughts on that are, Mr. Williams, Mr. Kennan. I think we're putting ourselves in a position where we're gonna get our strings pulled. And we're gonna continue to delay this. Cause all the Masons have got to say is, no, that's not enough. And then we're back here for another meeting.
And at that point, you know that you have a decision that.
And we're still paying $25,000 to $30,000 a month. And I don't have a problem with offering them that, but I think that we need to make sure somehow or another that they realize that it's time for them to make a decision. And I don't know what legal recourse we have. I like Mr. Bill's thoughts about it's still going to be operated as a hospital. And for at least another 30 years. And
Well, like I say, that would be a decision this board could make for a declaratory action against the Masons, or the board could offer block 111 to Meridian as is,
Yeah,
and then they would have to litigate that issue with the Masons.
yeah.
Or you give it back to the Masons if they don't accept your financial offer.
So that's a additional motion we could make. Okay. I don't have any problems with the motion and I support the motion.
Out of curiosity, before we move forward with this, I want to make sure that I can have multiple motions on this item before we move forward, because I don't want to just say this is it and then we got to move on. We can continue discussion on this item.
You're discussing
Okay.
the possible action.
So there is a motion
It's in a second, right?
and that is a new motion. So yes, you can. Okay. So, there is a motion on the floor to offer the with the name that's
Masons.
the Masons, sorry, thank you for stopping me there. To offer the Masons $25,000 for block 111. And there is a second on the floor, so we'll do a individual roll call vote, if you would, Ms. Chancey.
Yes,
Yes,
Wait a minute, doesn't the public comment first? That's how it works.
We've already had the public comment on.
yes.
Not on this motion.
We're not,
This is.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, but according to our rules that we have, and we have gone by as long as I have been on this board,
Yes.
it states that the board chair at their sole discretion may allow individuals to address each item scheduled on the agenda prior to the trustees discussing and taking action on the item. We did that. If the board chair intends to allow public comment prior to each item scheduled, which we are doing on the agenda, the board chair will announce the change in public comment time at the start of the meeting, which you did. And I would rather us take public comment before each item on the agenda, which we are doing, because the public comments that I get helps formulate my mind on any possible action that this board may take.
That's fine, but this is a new motion. Mr. Kenneth.
I don't
said
think I
last
need any
meeting,
additional comments from the public right now either.
He's right.
No, he's not.
Yes, I
He's right.
am.
He's
This
right.
is the same problem you guys had in Lake City. You make a motion and a second.
Stu,
I have.
we gotta have order. We gotta have order.
I'm not opposed to order. But I'm saying
Okay.
if you're out of order,
Stu,
this is a new motion in front of
Mr. Bullard.
the proposition in front of the.
Stu, you gotta stop.
I'm stopped. We'll get it straightened out. I'm stopped.
Mr. Bull,
Yes.
Mr. Beal.
Yes,
Okay, motion passes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
yes. I would like to make a motion that we also offer the Masons to give them block 111 back, to deed it back to them free and clear.
So there's a motion, I can do comments too, right, before I ask for a second? I'm just making sure that I can do that procedurally. Okay, so if we did that motion, out of curiosity, if we did a motion, just like what you're saying, Mr. Beal, is it possible to say if neither of these motions are accepted, we could then also move to go through the courts to have them either exercise their reverter or abandon it?
Well, the court proceeding would be as to whether or not the projected use would qualify as a hospital as defined in that 1938.
Fair enough, fair enough, yeah,
And so that is a little bit caught before the horse.
okay. Sorry, just, I was thinking about moving the ball myself.
a lot more than taking care of the building.
I would disagree. I would disagree. But anyway, there's a motion on the floor to offer the lot 111 to the Masons
That's if they don't accept the
If-
25,000.
if they don't accept the 25,000.
Is that,
Is that how it? That's what I'm hearing.
okay, I just wanted to make.
Sorry, not trying to put words in your mouth.
That's it.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments from the board?
It seems like we're gonna be nickel and diming this as far as motion for this and a motion for that, but can we give our staff the authority to well, the motion's already been seconded.
I would, if Ms. Chancey will, I'll change my motion to if we don't get a counter offer, then we offer to give the property back, is what my intent was. If the Masons don't counter offer our $25,000, accept or counter offer,
Yeah.
then we,
I think the only problem I have with that is that if the Masons said, okay, we want the lot back, then what's that gonna do? We have no idea what the attorneys at Meridian will tell our attorney.
can offer lot one.
And that's why I would just rather us maybe say to the Masons, take a pick. Of any of these lots. And you can have one, which is probably of much more value today than lot 111. Just saying. If, that would be another motion that we would have to do after this one is done, I guess. Am I correct, Mr. Kennan?
I think the original, we have a motion to offer them.
Yeah, it sounds like they said, I thought they said no. Or they haven't.
We have not made a formal.
I heard wrong.
Could I? Ms.
I know the
Chancey,
motion passed off from $25,000.
yes,
Okay.
Ms. Chancey, if you're willing to amend your second, I will amend my motion. To offer them another parcel of, or parcels of land that we own. To trade. Or. Be open to a counter offer, or. Offer the land back to the Masons.
I'll second that, but I want to question something. Didn't we already vote to give the land back to them?
We did
So-
at the last meeting, but I'm doing it again because it seemed like that was lost, so I'm just.
Yeah, I thought yeah. I thought we did.
I think that should be our primary thing, is give the land back to them. And then follow it with the money offer. Or the trade of land.
Well, I'm hearing it, we can give them the three options and then they would, under the motion, they would counter at that time.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay,
Is that the?
I mean, it's public record, they gonna know what's on the table.
I have to
It was help.
understand these things before I vote on it.
You've done this sort of thing before. They're gonna know.
That is
Right.
the intent.
Yeah,
Look,
the intent
here's
is
the
it's the
option.
three options.
You can have it
Okay.
back, you
Give
can
back
trade
the
for
land.
another.
Give back the land, give them money, or swap
With what?
it with dirt east. What do they want?
West.
West. Yeah, you're right. Not east. We can give that stuff out east.
You don't
if
know
they
the
want.
parking lot right here.
So what?
This parking lot.
Oh, no. I mean, it's these lots over here. That's my understanding.
Talking about the Masons still.
Yeah, the Masons. So unless there's any other comment, I'm gonna do a roll call vote on this one as well, just so we can be clear.
Yes,
Motion in the second, Ms. Chancey's yes,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy's yes, Mr. Bullard.
Yes.
Mr. Beal.
Yes,
All right. So we have that squared away. On this same item of the transfer, are there any additional
yes.
motions? Okay, Mr.
I
Beal.
don't know that it's a motion, but I would like staff to reiterate to Meridian, that from the vote to, well, no, we didn't. We didn't vote on anything. We've got to come to some sort of resolution on the reverter clause.
So we have the three options that we've been authorized to present.
Well, I mean, for Meridian, or do we just need to wait until the next meeting whenever we hear back from the Mason?
That way we can.
Got it all at once.
What we have to offer at that point.
Can this be done with the Masons? Do you think that there's any way that we can have some sort of answer by February?
I don't think so with their meeting
Well-
schedule.
They've got a meeting next week.
There you go.
Okay.
And
They
I
have
assume,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
no, Mr. Kennon was talking. I'm sorry.
No, I was just trying to remember their schedule. But
First
they have
and
to get
third
notice to the
Thursdays.
craft.
First and third Thursdays.
First and third, so I assume, and because I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I assume that if you notified them tomorrow, do they even have attorneys representing them?
They have a lot of attorneys.
We have not been advised, we being Mr. Williams and I, that they have not named an attorney. They
They
indicated
have
they,
not contacted an attorney at this point. That's my understanding.
And
At this point.
so I guess my question would be, Mr. Kennon, if you present this offer to whoever it may be, whether it be Mr. Tompkins or Mr. Mangrum or whoever, I assume that they're gonna tell you, okay, thank you, we've got to take this back to our board for a decision.
yes,
And then that's gonna be prolonging it for another 2 weeks, or we don't know when their board meets or anything like that.
well, I mean, we can tell them when our next board meeting is and we're gonna take action.
We're gonna take action, meaning what kind of action?
Whatever the trustees decided to do. If they don't have an answer, I mean, we can phrase it any way you want. If they don't have an answer by the February meeting, then the trustees can move how they wish.
To
If
give
that's
them
the
the
case-
property back or to deed the building to Meridian with the understanding that it's still a hospital.
Okay, I got all that, but in the meantime, we haven't done anything with Meridian. We haven't given them. We haven't discussed that, as far as I know, as to giving our legal staff, our executive director, the authority to inform Meridian's staff and attorneys that we are proceeding, and this is the way we are proceeding, the following has been done, so that Meridian can start working towards the goal in this contract that's being proposed. And again, I hate to go back, but we're looking at a minimum of 90 days once we authorize Meridian to take possession of the property.
Well, I think Meridian knows where the board's at this point.
Yeah, well, and
I mean, we can advise them, but
Well, we-
Mr. Savoy's here.
This is a good time to do a pause and do a tape change. Okay. I hate to do it, guys. I'll pick the heck of a slot of crux to pause this, but we gotta pause and swap tape. Let's off mute and, so we're back in order and we are still in discussion and possible action, to transfer the,
Mr. Chair,
yes, ma'am.
for everybody's edification, the Masons have 2 meetings before our next meeting.
Are they meetings with their board that can
People.
make the decisions?
Their people, yes,
The people.
their
Staff.
people make the
That gives
decisions.
us some hope for a time.
So out of curiosity, I'm just asking honestly, just to, for my sake, so I understand it. Are we limited to transferring the hospital with, we're not, right? We're not limited to transferring with lot 111.
You have the option to you have the option to offer it to Meridian with block 111 as is, with block 11 with the Masons taken care of, or the hospital building without block 111.
Can we ask for clarification that on that letter, if 101 was indeed a typo, or are they asking for lot 101, which is another parking lot?
I'll confirm that with their attorneys. ASAP.
And the only,
I was gonna say, could we have Mr. Savoy come up and address
Oh,
that
absolutely.
last comment,
absolutely.
if you don't mind?
I believe it was a typo.
Okay,
What, man?
Yes, please address the board.
So 111 is critical. To get a certificate of occupancy, you need the 112 parking spaces that go with the parking lot. To transfer the property and not have the ability to operate, basically we would have to pay a lot of expense for something that would very quickly revert back to you if we couldn't get a certificate of occupancy. That's the critical factor as it relates to the lots. My other, and I think my letter particularly spells out what's needed to have a going concern for psychiatric hospital. We could go down the road and work with the Masons or get into litigation with the Masons, whether a psychiatric hospital licensed by ACA and DCF constitutes a hospital or not. But quite frankly, moving forward without having those issues closed would not be something that we would look to do.
Thank you. Any questions from the board while we have Mr. Savoy here? Want to make sure, while I've got him top dead center.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Thank
do
you.
have a question. Sure. The bottom line, if it costs money, would you all assume that?
I don't have authority from my board to do that.
Could
I
you
don't
find
have
out?
a problem bringing it back,
Okay,
but I don't know that I would recommend it either, knowing that we're gonna have to invest 10 million. Likely more into that building to get it up and running. I mean, whatever the dollar amount is, it's a small amount, but it's not inconsequential when you compound it with all the other expenses we need to put in play to get this hospital licensed and operating. We asked, and it's in the letter, for the Board of Trustees to close those going concerns before we take ownership of the property. Like would happen in any other typical transaction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Mr. Chair, the only question I had that was brought up regarding the calendar. And today is the 8th of January, and I think I heard that there will be 2 more meetings by the Masons before the next meeting, which is scheduled for February 12th, unless we have a special meeting. But can we ask our staff, meaning our board attorney, Mr. Kennan, and our executive director, Mr. Williams, to please notify before the end of this week what this board has done tonight with the Masons, and to let them know that we would like to have, whenever their next meeting is, sometime between the next 21 days, by the end of January, or if they can have a special meeting to resolve this issue. And if not, unless Mr. Kennan tells us otherwise, I think we need to force the issue of going to court with them. Because if not, this is going to continue and continue, and I'm not willing to agree to approve another dollar of this year's budget going into maintaining that building over there. I'm sorry.
Believe we can direct you to. And it's, yeah. Um. I hate to bring it up, but if they're meeting every other Thursday, we're not too far out. Do we need to call another meeting, an emergency or a special meeting? Because we would have the 2 weeks to put another meeting in place to be able to respond to them in between their
I
two.
think that item is on our agenda for tonight.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
Just don't have the date.
Oh,
To
okay.
discuss that, right?
So I'm jumping ahead.
All right, so we get them notification as, so that Mr. Williams and I understand that we get them notification by the end of the week with a deadline of what? Our next meeting and
Well,
next regularly scheduled meeting?
I think I would, and I'm not, because you do your job better than anybody, but I think I would inquire as to in the next 10 days, 14 days, can they have a decision by their board?
No,
Won't, excuse me,
no.
the next 21 days before the end of this month, if they meet on Thursdays by their board, to approve our offer. Which is
We
very,
can relay it
Yeah,
in that
Why
manner.
don't we say by February the 5th, which would give them their 2 meetings? That is a week before our meeting.
and I get that, but then if they come back by February the 5th and say, no, thank you. Then we're looking at a meeting on February the 12th, and we're back here again saying, we haven't done a thing, we're still spending money at that facility, and then we're telling, authorizing Mr. Kennan to file some sort of court filings against the Masons, and I don't really want to do that.
Well, and you don't necessarily have a court action. You can offer them the deed back to block 111, which doesn't necessitate a court
I
action. Or
understand
you
that,
could
but
do
then
the
that's gonna
declaratory
hold up
action.
Meridian's
Mhm.
procedure.
Technically, they've been authorized to offer them all three of those things, right?
yes.
Mhm.
So if they offer them all three, we basically said, you have these three options, so the next meeting, we have our answer. I think.
Yeah, I know we have our answer, and I know what the answer will be.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Based on the actions of the trustees, unless Todd sees differently, I think we can put the offer with the various considerations. We can get it to them tomorrow. I mean, it's cut and dried now based on your actions. There's really 3 things that they can do. And if they have a preference, to tell us. Correct?
That's the way I understand it.
And we can communicate that as early as tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned. Now, but they do have a process now they have to go through, and any of you that's a member of any civic club knows, I mean, they have a procedure they must follow to make decisions.
And I think the earlier they get offered something, because if I'm not mistaken, I know in Eastern Star, they have to have a mailing to all members.
So,
And
so all members have to approve this,
they have to be notified.
notified.
Now, whether they respond or not, I know in Eastern Star, I don't know about the Masons. But I know in Eastern Star, all members have to be notified. And they have a time limit to respond.
Miss Laurie, I believe in our meetings with the Mason, they indicated that was their process also.
Well, so I guess at this point, the best we get it out tomorrow and see what we get back. We now have a, definitive plan as far as authority for an offer.
Okay.
So unless there's any further discussion, I'm gonna move on to the next item. There's another motion.
Are we gonna vote on that last one?
Did we put a motion?
No, we just authority of
Oh.
what our timeline was. We
Okay.
voted on the three options.
Okay,
And just, after that, it was administratively, how do we carry out notifying them of the three options?
my ear doesn't work.
That's all right. Okay, discussion and possible action, status of land parcels deeded to the city of Lake City from the Lake Shore Hospital Authority for the construction of a new city hall.
Mr. Chairman, and,
Just for the record, I'm still owning the city for 60 days, so that if we go quicker than that, we would be probably utilizing Mr. Feeble, if he would be so inclined to assist.
Mr. Chairman, in February of 2019, the trustees deeded 12 parcels of land to the city of Lake City. Those 12 parcels lie west of Calhoun Street, north of Franklin, with the exception of one parcel, which is just south of Franklin. And all of these parcels are just a little bit to the west of us before you get to Marion Street. You placed a reverter in that transfer. That reverter required them to use it to build a city hall and some supporting infrastructure for a city hall, such as parking and et cetera. That obviously is no longer part of the city plans. The city took a different avenue to address those needs. The city did, however, on two different occasions, ask the trustees to consider just deeding those without a reverter. The city believes that they would have a potential use for those in the future, and that they could do something appropriate with them from a public perspective, but that was never identified as any specific project. So next month, these lots should revert back to the authority. The question and the reason it's on the agenda is, number one, I assume that's automatic if it's in the deed, but they did make the request. And so on behalf of the city, I am asking if there's any wishes on the part of the authority to entertain that, or if you simply wish to let these revert back to the authority at the appropriate time.
The request was,
To just deed them to them without a reverter, give them ownership of it.
I make a motion that we retain the property at this point until we settle everything about the hospital.
Mr. Kennedy?
I just would like, because this is a new item agenda, I did not know if you're, Mr. Chairman, you're doing a great job in running the meeting, but I didn't know if we had any public
Yeah, we need to-
comments. We did.
If we have public comment, now's the time.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's exactly- yeah,
Before we discuss and take any action.
I was gonna hold after
Thank
her
you, sir.
motion
I'm
and
sorry.
start running around.
I'll make, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Put it on. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little dizzy. I was at meetings when Mr. Killian is the attorney in the city. And they announced at the city that everybody went to an ethics meeting and said the proper time, this was at the ethics thing, that everybody has to go to, Mr. Killian, not singling you out.
No, I've been through.
I don't know what they do, I don't go. Ethics is always been problematic in Florida. So I'm not going there. But Mr. Kennedy announced, and the mayor announced, that the proper time, based on what Mr. Kennedy said, to make public comment is after the motion and the second. And I will tell you why that makes sense. I understand the prior rules that Mr. Kennedy read, but that doesn't mean because you have a prior rule, it makes it right. SB 50, which was passed in 2013, I believe, gave the public the right to comment on a proposition that was before the public body. That's you guys, the city council, anybody. The question is, when is that proposition in front of the board or the public body? it's not properly in front of the public body until there's a motion and a second. And all bodies, that's when they comment. Now, different boards do it different ways. Some boards allow the board to discuss it, and then the public comments after that. Some boards, after the motion and the second, apparently Mr. Kennedy likes that, the public makes their comments, and then the board discusses and votes. Nobody does it where they bundle them all at the beginning, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, and you have 3 minutes to discuss them. The Ethics Commission has stated the proper time to have the public discussion, the proposition before the board, is after a motion and a second. It's up to you guys, I suppose, when you do it. So as far as this goes, I mean, I don't know. I read the letter from Mr. Dial. I don't recall when it was from, but Mr. Dial is long gone. It would seem to me to make sense that Mr. Williams or Stephen Douglas or Mr. Kennedy or somebody goes up in front of the city council and asks them what they want to do. The other problem I respectfully point out to this board is Mr. Kennedy cannot represent this board and Lake City at the same time. He can't be your attorney and the city's attorney.
That's why I made the announcement
Now,
at the beginning that I
there's
was.
one way to do it.
That.
And if this board votes to allow you to represent them and the city, I got that. I'm just gonna finish the sentence, please.
Yeah.
Allows you to represent them, then that's the way to do it. As far as I'm concerned, you may not have an attorney right now regarding this, or the city doesn't have an attorney. And in the best public interest, I believe before this is discussed,
Sure,
you
this
need
has
to
already
get
been
Marlon
discussed.
down here or somebody else. Thank you very much, Mr. Beal. I'm done.
Okay,
You can raise your hand or something, I get it.
He's the chair.
we're good. Thank you, Stu.
We got another public comment, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would like to just say for the record, I'm sorry. Mr. Kennan stated at the very beginning when you introduced this item
Yes.
that he's still got another 60 days with the city, so it would be conflicted out and we would probably need to get Mr. Fiegel here if he's still willing to at the next meeting or whenever to deal with this. So my understanding is Mr. Kennan is not representing us while we're discussing this item.
I agree.
Correct.
I thought it was handled as well.
And Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I would like to bring up the fact that anybody can do a public records request, which Ms. Markham is great at responding to, but we have a document dated February the 10th, 2020, signed by Mr. Brandon Beal as chairman, Ms. Loretta Chancey as secretary, and approved by Mr. Fred Coberline, entitled Lakeshore Hospital Authority Meeting Rules and Procedures, which was given to me 2 years ago. And this is the way that we're operating. And it is, we take public comment before an agenda item and not after we have had a discussion and a motion. That's why I want to hear the public comments, because it helps me formulate a motion and my decision, period. Yeah. And that's the way it works here. So get your public records request and you can take it and read it and sleep with it.
The reverter clause in those parcels, in the deeds of those parcels, right? I don't see how there's a downside to that, right? If you acquire them and they go in your inventory, you can then, if you need to, put them in surplus and try to offset some of the acquisition costs from the masons that takes place.
Thank you. Yes.
If I understand correctly, I know where the parking lot in question is,
Yes, ma'am.
and they need parking. And then there's this parking lot over here, well, right opposite here. Can that not be traded to, for Meridian to use? But with this, why not, just give the city, because they've been in flux like a plate of spilled spaghetti, they don't know which end is up. Just give them another 3 months or 4 months until they have a maybe a permanent city manager, because they don't know which end is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stein. Oh,
Are we now ready for discussion?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
You have a second to the motion?
I don't think,
well, I think we're still in discussion.
Okay.
We don't have, no, we don't have
All
a
right,
second.
just
yeah.
checking.
I do know that.
I would just like to bring up that I was not on the board, Mr. Bullard, you weren't either. Back in November of 2019 and in December of 2019 and January of 2020. But I did take the opportunity several months ago to come down here and listen to the tapes that were Mr. Beal, Mr. Douglas, and Ms. Chauncey were members of that board at that time. At that time, there was three excellent presentations by the city. By Mr. Helfenberger, is that the way you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Correct.
Who came at the last meeting, all of the city council members came, in addition to Ms. Sykes, the city clerk, and the mayor of the city council, with beautiful thoughts and ideas that they wanted these lots to build a city hall on one side, and on the other side, county buildings, and in the middle, a meeting room. And when I heard that, I said, let's listen to the tapes, and it sounded good, and I see why this board agreed to that. But now we have no direction from the city as to what they want to use the lots for. They want to just continue to have them out there. But what I would like to see us do is to enforce the reverter on the interlocal agreement, which is why we have reverters and interlocal agreements, and let's don't go to court. And let's don't say we'll take X number of dollars. Let's just take the lots back. And then if they want to come to us 6 months from now, a year from now, if we still have lots with another grandiose idea, and then we can think about deeding those lots to them again with another reverter in there. And then in the meantime, we all live happily and happily ever after. That's just my thoughts and discussion.
Chancey, could
I
you?
happen to agree.
I echo those thoughts. Ms. Chancey, what was your motion? I'm sorry.
Word for word, I couldn't tell you.
Would you like to read?
Give us the gist.
I
That
thought,
we do nothing until we get,
That's right.
So it comes,
till
so
we,
it
next
reverts
meeting on
back,
the land.
so we own the land, so the property reverts back. Is that what your
Right.
motion was?
But you want to hold until we figure.
Well, if we do nothing, it
solve
reverts back.
We
right?
do nothing with it
And allow the
until we get the
reverter.
Masonic thing settled.
You get extended.
You gotta extend it.
Or
the- Well, but technically, yeah, I was gonna say, is that a technically an extension?
An extension of what?
the
I don't
reverter?
think her motion was not to extend the reverter clause. I think her motion was to sit tight and allow the reverter clauses to become active on their own time as stated in the interlocal agreement and the deeds.
and I would love to second your motion if you would maybe suggest that our executive director just write a letter to the interim city managers telling them what our decision is that they've got until February the 3rd or February the
First.
10th. Well, no,
February the 1st.
No, the interlocal agreement was dated February 3rd, and you and
Okay.
Mr. Beal did not sign it till February the 10th. So I would give them until February the 10th to just let
That's
them
gonna put
know
it
that
past our
the,
meeting.
excuse me?
That's gonna put it past our meeting.
No, it's not. Our meeting's on the 12th. Yeah. I just think we need to give Mr. Williams some
Okay.
billable hours so that he can write this letter and.
Amen. Amen.
You know, it takes a long
I
time.
agree.
while
I amend the motion,
both pages.
include all that.
And I'll second if that motion will include all of that.
Perfect. So there's a.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
There's a motion and a second for the board. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a
Roll call.
roll call vote if you will.
Yes.
Ms. Chancey?
Yes.
Kennedy? Bullard?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Fields? All right, it's unanimous.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, at the previous meeting, you, the board, designated January the 22nd as a special meeting. That date never materialized because once calendars were checked, there were conflicts. So based on conversations that we've had tonight, the intent here was to see if we wanted to reschedule for a special meeting. The one thing that I want to add to the conversation is since our last meeting, I have had conversations with court administration for the county. They want to make a presentation to you, and their presentation is time sensitive. So they would very much like to get in front of the trustees, have a discussion with you about facilities and building space and et cetera, as soon as possible. Now, they asked to come tonight for a decision and we could not make it work calendar wise. We couldn't get them on in time where it would be a proper vote. So they want to get in front of you as quick as you will allow that. So if we do call, or if you do call for a special meeting, I would like for them to be included on that agenda, as well as any other thing you may have.
You said time sensitive. Is there any date that they had in mind?
They did. They have a contract currently, which is, and I'll have to send it to you. I'm sorry, I forgot, but it is set to expire at a point certain. And they're trying to see if they can work to beat that deadline.
Is that prior to February 12th?
It sounds like it.
No, their deadline would be several months later, but if they're here to ask about space, they would need time in order to get the appropriate lease, work out the details, those kind of things. And for those of you that don't know, court administration is handled on a circuit-wide basis, and each county contributes towards the cost of that. Mr. Kennedy in a different life and I in a different life, we used to have a lot of discussions about these court-related expenses, but
Pro rata share.
yeah. I think time is of the essence to them. So any week or two that might be saved to them is beneficial.
And I know, I think the 22nd was off the table because of one of the members had conflict.
Yeah.
And of course, we have a new board member now, which is great. So we will have a quorum, but if it's an important item like that, I'd like for the whole board to be present to vote on it. But it's up to you, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm flexible. I can
It sounds like we probably won't.
meet
have-
after this meeting if you want to.
we probably won't have any resolution from the Masons by,
Not before the 12th, based on what I've heard tonight.
Well, no, if they meet on the 11th and the 25th, if we get it past the
29th.
The 18th of January and the 1st of February, the 1st and 3rd
so yeah,
Thursday.
it'll be the 4th and the 18th of January, so they'll meet on the 18th.
Are we-
For what it's worth, and I'm out the 3rd through the 9th. No, 3rd through the 10th, I'm gone.
So you can meet on the 2nd.
What about,
I mean, I'm flying out at 5 in the morning on Saturday. Okay, I mean, I'll do it. I'll do it because you said so. I'll do it just to prove you wrong.
what about 29th of January?
I know I have a conflict that night.
What about the 30th of January?
What night is that?
It's a Tuesday.
I'd have to check Live Oak to see all of it. It should be before then.
I'm open all the way till March the 2nd.
Well, may I suggest, because obviously everybody has their individual schedules, that tomorrow we let Sonia check and see what the conflicts are and pick a date and get it advertised.
I do like the 30th. I'm very partial to the 30th because I'll actually be down here all day.
Can we tell them that we are interested in listening to their proposal? But that we just can't make a decision immediately.
That's your prerogative.
Then we can invite them to come within the next 2 weeks. We will have an idea of what they're presenting. And then we can move on it when we get this other stuff straightened out without a problem.
I wasn't privileged to the phone call, but I suspect I know what they are wanting, and it is like Mr. Williams has suggested that they need space.
Yeah.
Because that courthouse is.
Yeah.
Just about full.
But what we suspect and what they want to, we should give them the privilege of presenting.
Oh, I agree.
And we could do that where we don't conflict with anybody's schedule in the next 2 weeks. And with the information that we do not have another meeting until February the 12th and cannot vote on it till then.
Oh, you're saying just have an informational only session?
Bingo.
And I don't have, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't have a
But
problem with
if
that.
that's the case, if it doesn't conflict with what we're doing with the other building and the Masons, why wouldn't we just act on it then?
I think we have to publish, don't we have like a 2-week?
Publish regardless whether it's a workshop or a
Well,
special meeting.
we have to publish, and I don't know if there's a difference legally in just having a informational workshop versus a meeting.
Well, if you have if you have 2 or more, it has to be published and noticed.
Same way, either way. So there's no difference in calling the meeting than there is just calling an informational workshop.
Yeah.
How much notice do we need?
Well, we have to give 7 days, but we have to remember that we have to allow for publishing times. So our local paper publishes, they have a schedule, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So we have to make sure we hit those. So I normally say 10 days.
But don't we already have the 22nd on the calendar?
No, because of the
They took it off.
conflict,
They
it
took it
was
off.
withdrawn, yes.
So we could make it the meeting for either the 18th or the 19th. And the 19th is a Friday.
Hmm.
I won't be it either.
We have it on Saturday.
I think it sounds like the options are either check the availability for the 30th or have them come on the 12th and move as fast as we can after that. Given the notice time.
We can instruct staff to try for an availability for an earlier meeting at the end of this month, but I mean, beyond that. And then we could do a presentation and then we could act on the 12th. I think that's as fast as we're gonna make it.
But if we're doing that, then just call a special meeting so we can act in if we need to.
Yeah,
Okay, does anybody have any conflicts of any dates in January?
Oh, yeah.
Brandon's full of confidence. But
Well, didn't y'all all agree to the 30th except for Todd? And I'll call his office in the morning.
yeah, I mean, the 30th works for me.
Shouldn't we have a few in case we've got somebody that comes up with something?
Let me ask one other question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If one of the board members is unable to attend that date, Mr. Kennan, could they zoom in to at least just listen and hear? Because we're not doing any vote, we're just listening
Well, you
to
just
the
have to,
presentation.
just have to make it plain that you're not taking any action.
But if we did take action, we'd still have a quorum.
Yes.
Okay.
Or, I mean, the county may be able to provide some documentation between now and the 30th as far as what they're gonna present, so you'd have that before the meeting.
Good point.
If they're able to do that.
That's not a big ask.
Todd, if for some reason you can't make it on the 30th, but the trustees can you send one of your proteges in your place?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Bullard, do you have a problem with the 30?
So we're gonna go with the 30th?
It sounds like it, yes, ma'am. We have to make a motion on that, or can we just schedule it? We don't have to make a motion on it. We can just schedule it.
Schedule it. Notify them.
Schedule a notice.
We don't have to. have
It'll
public
work till
discussion.
about 8 o'clock in the morning, then there'll be a
I think
problem.
we should. That was funny, and you know it.
He likes this.
Okay, all right, any unfinished business? Okay, the staff reports in the back of your packet. Any final, board member comments?
None.
I'd just like to welcome Mr. Bullard on board and look forward to serving with you, sir. And hopefully, after you've served 2 years, you'll get one of these nice little portfolios.
One day, one day. I too just get welcome aboard, Mr. Bullard. No shortage of excitement. You have any comments? Sir?
I don't.
Okay. Mr. Beal.
Lord, I appreciate your willingness to serve. Welcome aboard, and I hope that you'll come back to the next meeting.
All that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
He said, young lady.